Thank you for being on here. I've been doing this podcast with my buddy Matt for 10 years now.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've been doing it for 10 years, and it's really just been the two of us. It started us in Dallas, and then he's moved to a couple of places, and we've kept doing it. It's been on TV in Albuquerque and a couple other places, and lately it's like, let's expand and let's talk to some of the interesting people that we know, in and around the industry. So thank you. Okay, so we've known each other over a decade at this point, right?
Over a decade,
yeah.
which makes me feel really old.
I've got a senior in high school now, and today's my 21st wedding anniversary, so I'm feeling the
happy
age.
Anniversary.
Thank you. So to celebrate, we're seeing a movie.
That's right. Hey, my husband and I, we have every single anniversary, including the year we got married, has been spent at South by Southwest. We literally got married and the next day got in the car and went down to South by Southwest. And I like to joke because some of his team was with us. And I was like, oh, the whole team just came with us to our honeymoon. And we went to Italy later, but like right after the wedding, we literally went to a film festival and had the whole crew with us. And every single anniversary since, we've been at South by Southwest.
That's funny. Well, see, we're seeing Disclosure Day tonight. And this is also the anniversary of the release of E.T. and the release of Jurassic Park. And it's the anniversary of our first date, which was to open
the anniversary of the release of Jurassic Park?
Yeah, June 11th. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I literally have my guy right here.
Yep, E.T. Jurassic Park. Oh, I got mine. And then Disclosure Day, although it says the 12th, but like everyone's showing it on the 11th, so it's the 11th. I want that. You got to tell me where you got that.
I have all of them. I've had them since. So for anyone who's not recognizing what this is, you're not a true Jurassic fan.
No, you're not.
Because this is one of the dinosaurs that's in the gift shop.
Yeah.
In the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
I have all of them. I'm literally looking at them right over there. I have all of them. My parents got them for me when I was a kid. And when my parents are like at that stage where they're like, hey, what stuff do you want? This was one of the first.
The dinosaur.
I asked for this a while ago because I was like, I treasure these. I will have them for the rest of my life. Like, I will not be giving these up at any point in time because I love my Jurassic Park dinosaurs.
I want those really bad. I actually got one from the third movie. It was in my college apartment all throughout college. It was about 3 feet wide, and it was a T-Rex.
Yeah.
They released 2 of these pillows. One was a T-Rex, one was a Spinosaur. And we put it, after I got married, it went into storage, and like a year later, we went to get our stuff out of storage, and rats had gotten in and ruined. We had a 10 by 10 that was filled, and everything was ruined. I mean,
that's the worst.
I mean, like irreplaceable stuff. And that thing got ruined, and I've been trying to find one since, and it's been really difficult. I'm like, why is it so hard to find this pillow? Well, it turns out it was in Walmart for 3 weeks because there was like a stitch in the mouth that popped, and it got a safety recall. I have seen one Spinosaur and only one Tyrannosaur go on sale in the last 20 years online, and they both went for like $1,700 for a pillow. So I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if you can find these guys anymore, because like when I say I got these as a kid, I got these as a little kid, and I'm 36.
Well, I've got 2 of my T-Rexes up there are from the original series. Rexy, the big one right there, and then the baby T-Rex. My Raptor first up down there, I got again when I was a kid. So yeah, like I hold on to those because that's my personal favorite movie. Like Jurassic Park's just my thing.
I do. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite movies too, like of all time. I love it so much. When I was a kid, the Natural History Museum where we lived, they had this program where it was like you could bring your kid. They had daddy daughter night and they had all these other things, but you could bring your kid to stay overnight
Oh,
with all
that's
the other
awesome.
kids and the families or whatever in the museum. And so they did one that was like daddy daughter night, and it was in the museum where the dinosaurs were. And so he took me because I loved dinosaurs when I was a kid, and I slept underneath the Triceratops because I had to make sure that the Triceratops was okay because it had been sick in the movie. And I was like, Dad, we have to make sure
Oh,
it's okay.
there. So, I went to USC, and across the street on the south end of USC, like southeast end, I think, is the Natural History Museum.
Mm,
And I used to go just kind of walk around the philosophy building, which is kind of around where you cross over because it's my favorite building on campus. And I would go over to the Natural History Museum just because when you went in there, they had this giant, it was a Tyrannosaur, and I think, if I remember correctly, it was a Triceratops in the very
mm,
front, like when you first walk in, and just spending time around those. Like I absolutely loved it, and
yeah.
um, I miss it. But okay, so Jurassic Park that came out in '93.
Hmm.
You're 36. You probably didn't see it in its original run, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't see it in theaters. I actually saw it just at home later on. Loved it immediately. But I have since seen it in
Good,
theaters. So
good.
I have seen it in theaters a couple times since.
It
Um,
that's one that like when it's back in theaters, I make it a point
yes.
not to miss it because when everything shut down during the
Hmm.
pandemic, after about 6 months, I realized, oh, the last movie I saw in theaters was Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. And I got really depressed. I'm like, I don't want that to be the last movie I see in theaters. I mean, no offense to that movie, but
Yeah,
like the one I'd seen right before that was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And that would have felt,
that's a great one.
if that's the last one I go out on, okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And then the first one after things started opening up, someone in Grandscape, right near Frisco, they
Hmm.
had Jurassic Park showing, and I'm like, we're going, like we're get our
I
masks, we're not missing this. So every
yeah,
time it plays, I'm there.
I really want to see it in either 4DX or D-Box. And we don't have any 4DX seats or theaters here in Dallas, which is weird because Dallas is the third
Yeah,
largest movie going audience in the country. Like that, they are the third largest media market, and we are the third largest in terms of box office revenue, I believe.
it's
Uh,
also where they test screen Jaws.
yeah, which, by
Yeah,
the way, we'll talk about that in a second because that theater is no longer here, and I'm really upset about it. And there's another theater here that we're trying to make sure it doesn't happen in the same way, and yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
I want to see that in 40X because I just want to experience, or I'll settle for D-Box. I will settle for D-Box because I just want to experience the scene where the T-Rex and the water cup. I just want to be in one of those chairs and I want to feel that moment throughout my entire body. Just once, just once. That's all I need, but I want to experience it.
So two fun little things about that scene. I so I've seen that movie at least 200 times. I sat down and did the math, and it's over 200, and that's a very conservative estimate. Because
That's
I mean,
crazy.
I mean, when it came out, I was obsessed, and like when it came out on VHS, like I would stay up all night, just drawing or reading, and that movie was on repeat. Call it my tism. So that's how it manifests. So
That's Jurassic Park.
yeah, and I've seen it. I think a baker's dozen in the theater, right?
Yeah,
And they were playing it at the ArcLight, which is still shut down, and my favorite theater on the planet.
I've seen
But
so
they,
many movies there.
it's so good. But they, so the ArcLight, back when they used to have screenings with like filmmakers and stuff,
Hmm.
they showed a copy on film because this is before digital took over everything. But they showed a film copy, and Stan Winston was there, and this was a couple years before he passed. And I'm like, well, I'm not missing that. So my buddy and I went. Yeah, it was awesome. And my buddy and I went, and the guy who ran the theater came out before, and he goes, okay, so guys, talking to the crowd, he's like, so this movie has DTS sound. It was the first one to do it, and that's where, you know, you have the optical track on the film, and there's a time code that hooks up to a CD. That was the first way of doing digital sound in a theater. Unfortunately, you know, we don't do that anymore, so we have to play this off the optical track. We're sorry if this disappoints any of you, and I'll be waiting outside for the first 5 minutes. And if anyone is unhappy with our presentation, we will get you a full refund, no questions asked. So my buddy and I looked at each other and we're like, that's not a good way to start a screening, with warning us about how bad it's going to be. Right. Okay, well, let's get ready to go. So, but we sit down, we're going to go through the first 5 minutes, and that first boom hits, and it shook our chairs. And we looked at each other and we're like, wait, he's thinking this isn't good enough? Like, this optical track's fantastic. So that was perfect. Yeah. And Stan Winston afterwards was awesome. But also, that scene went to a whole new level. I'm not a big fan of post-converted 3D in movies because there's too many concessions, especially with older films where you have to clean up some of the grain and everything gets a little waxy. But I took my oldest daughter to see it in 3D when she was... I'm terrible. She was like 4.5 years old.
Oh, that's okay. My dad let me see things when I was real little that...
Yeah. But we went to go see this in 3D, and that scene is, I think it's one of the best scenes in cinema history. It's absolute perfection.
Yeah.
But when the camera cranes up and Rexy like eats the goat and then looks at the camera, that is like the one of like 4 times to me where like 3D really worked in a movie, and it was terrifying. It's like, oh, that thing's there. Yeah. Uh-oh. Like it's just the best movie.
It was also terrifying, like, at the time, because it was the first of its kind in a lot of ways. I mean, just the technology they used for, you know, the animation elements of that, the live action animation elements of it, everything was a first. And so audiences, I mean, I wish I could have been one of the original audiences, just because I want to know what that feels like. I want to know what it's like to experience something like that you've never seen before. You've never seen the technology. Like, this is a whole different immersive experience. I just want to know what that felt like back then.
Well, I was
I just want to know what that felt like.
I was 10. And I remember everything about that day. I remember the fact that my dad was late leaving, and by the time we got to the theater, I pre-ordered tickets like 2 weeks earlier over Movie Phone.
Yeah. Who's back now?
Oh yeah. This is back when it was like, if you know the name of the movie you'd like to see, press 1. It was a big deal
back then.
Oh yeah, I had my parents' credit card numbers memorized and everything
for movie tickets.
Oh yeah, because that's the only thing we ever did. Like, we never went on vacations, anything like that. We saw movies, but we went to go see it. We were late getting there. We already had our tickets, so the seats were there, but like, I had to sit with my dad on one side of the theater. My mom and my sister, who was 4, were on the other side. And you know, I was already a fan of Spielberg. I was a big movie buff. You know, I got my start in this industry as a child actor in LA. So like, I had already, like, I knew about this stuff. I knew about CGI, and what it was starting to do. Actually, my dad worked for GTE, which later became Verizon, and he was the project manager on the T1 video conferencing set up between ILM and George Lucas, so they could teleconference and do changes on the edit and the visual effects for Jurassic Park. So yeah, my dad was actually one who set that up. So I knew about this stuff going into it, but I'll tell you, opening night, when you see the Brachiosaur for the first time, the theater just went
I bet.
like it. You were seeing something that you knew wasn't real,
What do you
but
think
it
the modern
was.
day, right? What do you think the
There's
modern
not. There's nothing.
like
There,
the only thing I could think of is maybe the technology with the first Avatar, maybe?
and no, because the thing is, it's still using older technologies and jumping off from it.
Yeah, like
Like
there's nothing that's quite that like,
it, the
you know?
and here's the thing: like the Brachiosaur was big, but when Rexy broke out and she's interacting with like curling cables and like there's water
Yeah,
splashing in between her
like
toes.
curling cables just like
Yeah,
the
and
ping of them moving.
it
I remember that like vividly, feeling that and being like,
the closest thing I can compare it to would probably be, those lucky people who watch the Lumiere brothers show Train Arriving at a Station.
okay,
Because even with King Kong,
yeah,
back in 33,
okay,
people would know that it was stopped. Like, even if they weren't sure exactly how it was done, it doesn't look photoreal. The difference is you have a 40-foot long tyrannosaur standing there interacting with things that you know were real. And you're like, wait, how did they do this? It is the biggest magic trick I've ever seen. And I really don't know another moment in cinema history where there's something that because people will be like, oh, well, Star Wars, they changed effects. And yeah, Star Wars changed effects, but it was still built on stuff
yeah, it was
that we had seen. It was models.
yeah, still
This
models
was,
and stuff. It was totally different, and that's why I'm like, I just really wish I could go back in time and just. So I ask this question all the time when I'm doing interviews. What's the one movie you wish you could go back and experience again
ooh,
for the
yeah.
first time? One of my big ones is Jurassic Park for that reason. I just want to feel what it felt like for audiences back then. And then again, like Jaws is also, I mean, Jaws is also in that same vein. It's not as like, oh my God, it's Jurassic Park, but like with Bruce, that was a real, like full on built
Yeah.
out shark. And that was something that audiences hadn't really seen at that point. And I want to know what it was like to be so excited
Yeah.
and so unprepared almost for this visceral experience that people are waiting, around the block outside of a movie theater to get in. You have people screaming in the auditoriums, like freaking out because the shark was so scary or these dinosaurs are breaking loose. Like, I want to know what that feels like. I feel like we're so desensitized because we've seen so much, we've accessed so much, technology has come so far. We're just so desensitized to things we see on screen today. But I'm like, I want to feel the wonder. That's what it is. I want to feel the wonder.
There's so much that you just brought up. So Jaws, like, I would have loved to have been there simply because it's it's the form, like where you're watching movies completely go into a different gear, and you're like, and the funny thing is, and this is just going to turn into a glazing Spielberg podcast because it's like
It though, okay, he deserves it.
they're like two good shark movies, and he made one of them.
Yeah.
Like there's
What's the other shark movie?
I love The Shallows. I love The Shallows.
Okay.
I love that one.
I love Deep Blue Sea.
Okay.
Sorry,
I was in high school. I was in high school and I saw it opening night, and I was really excited for it. And I've given it many, many tries since. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's better than most. I'll say that.
But look, LL Cool J cannot be topped in that movie.
His hat is like a shark's fin.
I don't. He can't be topped in it. The scene with him and the bird and the shark in the oven.
Yeah. I will say this. I like how it subverted expectations with the fact that like he lived and Thomas Jane lived, and the one person you thought was going to make it out didn't. But okay, so you mentioned something like 30 minutes ago that we'll get back to real quick. You said when you do interviews. We haven't really said what you do. You tell us, what do you do and how'd you get here? What inspired you to do this?
So I'm an entertainment host, journalist, somebody something. I do I do interviews for junkets and red carpets and press days for new films. I specifically work in the theatrical space. So people cover like TV shows and all that, and I've done that before, but my big thing is theatrical. Everything that's coming to theaters. I started working, back up. I started off in LA after school. And I did like talent wrangling for red carpets back then, and I worked.
Tell me about this. Like, where'd you go to school? Like, how'd you lead into that?
Yeah, I went to Baylor, and I got a BFA performance because I wanted to be an actor, and I was a singer, so I did musical theater, and I did TV, or like I did film, and I also got minor degrees in marketing for music and entertainment because I don't know, I just really liked all of it. I wanted to know. I wanted to do stuff in front of the camera. I wanted to do stuff behind the camera. I loved all of it. I love entertainment. I love movies. I love TV. I just love what the escapism that it allows for. And growing up as a kid, I used to watch my dad come home. My dad is an electrophysiologist, and I'm the oldest in my family. And so, he was still finishing at residency, and he was getting like kind of the crappy, crappy schedule. And so he would come home really late when I was growing up. And he would sit down, he would come in, he would get something to eat, he would sit down on the couch in front of the TV, and he would just watch whatever was on. It was usually something that had to do with action or sci-fi. It's probably where my love of sci-fi comes from. Also, why I saw things like Pulp Fiction way too young. Which, by the way, before John Travolta's wife passed, I interviewed him and her together, and she absolutely called me out on that. And I was like, I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. And John Travolta was like, he saved me. He was like, and look at you now. Look what you do. Look what it did for your career. And I was like, thank you.
If it makes you feel better, back in 2021, so we're talking 5 years ago, I took my girls, who are now 17 and 15, to go see True Lies at the Texas Theater and then do a Q&A with Tom Arnold afterwards. And at one point he started cursing. He saw my girls. He's like, oh no, I didn't know there were kids here. And I said,
they're fine.
I said, hey, I brought them here. Obviously I'm a crappy parent. Don't worry about it. But
yeah. Where was I? That totally threw me off track.
Sorry. You were talking about movies seen way too early.
Yeah. So my dad would come in, and oftentimes, like, I'd get to spend time with him by just like going down and sitting down and just watching whatever he was watching. And I don't think I realized this until I was older. Like, I don't think I realized what those moments actually did for me until I look back on it as, an adult. But I kind of realized that as a kid, I watched him come in looking like the day had been very heavy, stressed, tired, fatigued, whatever. And I think I just watched I watched it all kind of melt away. And we watched everything from Zelda and Hercules to The Fifth Element, and like that was the thing. That's what we would watch. And I think I had like a profound connection to that and what that could do. And I loved all of it. And so I wanted to be a part of it in some way. And I went out to LA to go pursue all of it. And I'll be honest, LA chewed me up and spit me out.
What years were you there? What years were you there?
Oof. I was there 2012, 13.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah.
14 or something.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah.
I was there for a couple years, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. Like, I remember this audition I went into for a commercial, and I walked in the room, and I was very naive. I gotta say that. I was a Southern kid. I grew up in a really tiny town, like, very naive. And I walked into this audition, and it was a room full of girls who, all blonde hair, all, like, fair skin like me, but all of them 10 times more beautiful than me. And I walked in and I was like, oh, is this a nightmare? I was like, I don't know what's happening right now, but I think I'm in a nightmare because I just walked into 10 other versions of me that are absolutely better versions.
It's
what
body
is happening?
dysmorphia, like in person. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, what is happening right now? And like, I did the audition. She was like, hey, you were great. Like, you're one of the best auditions we've had of the day. And I was like, yes, never heard a peep ever. And that's kind of how most things went.
At
And
least you
then
got the audition. I
at
mean,
least I got the audition,
yeah.
right? Simultaneously, the other thing was happening is I was also going on interviews for production jobs, trying to get hired. And I will always remember this one because I was like, what? I wear red lipstick all the time. That is like, you've seen me so many times. Like, I wear red lipstick all the time. That is
Yep.
something that, like, people literally know me. They're like, oh, you're red lipstick. That is something that I just like personally. I like the way it looks. I love the way, like, it makes me feel. I wore red lipstick to this production interview to go be a PA. Didn't think anything of it. I wasn't like dressed up a ton. I think I was in like jeans and like a nice top or something. I wasn't like super fancy. I just had my hair down and red lipstick on. And I remember this dude looked at me and he was like, he was so rude to me and he was grilling me about could I actually do this? And no. And then he looked at me and he was like, a word to the wise, don't ever show up again for a production interview looking like you look. And I was like, what? And he was like, next time, come in, no makeup on, baseball cap, and throw your hair back because no one's going to hire you like this. And so I was teetering between auditions where I wasn't skinny enough, pretty enough, like I wasn't the top choice enough. And then on the production side, I was too put together and I looked too nice when I came in. And so they were like, "Oh, absolutely not. Like we're not going to give you the job." It was a
Wow.
very confusing time for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
it
that's
was.
awful.
It was. And so I like to say, like, it literally chewed me up and spit me out because I felt so lost. I've never felt that lost in my life as when I was in LA. And there were things that I really liked about LA. I couldn't find footing. Like I couldn't find my
Yeah.
place. And so I ended up moving to Dallas because my best friend lived here. And I happened to get recommended for this job at a movie theater chain in their corporate office doing marketing. And it was a company that was essentially one partner bought out the other. And so it was kind of like this 20-year-old startup, which was a really unique opportunity. And when I got in there, I was on the marketing team, decided when I first got in, I was supporting both film and marketing. And I decided to just go the marketing track because I saw this huge opportunity with content. And I thought, my background doing on camera work, like I'm trained professionally in all of this. I'm also have a degree in marketing, so I like the two worlds combined really nicely. And so I basically was like, "Hey, can I take over the so can you just give me the social media? I'll run it. And give me like the pre-show. I'll manage the pre-show content and stuff." And through that, I found my way to junkets and red carpets and coverage. And I literally it was a grind. I decided I wanted to go do this. Just about everybody professionally and personally told me that it was impossible and that you can't just like go do this. You can just get your foot in the door. Because at the time, like social media influencers and creators were not really a thing. It was traditional media. Like you had to have, you get it, like you had to
Oh
follow the
yeah.
path. And if you weren't on the path, like you're not getting in. Doors closed. You have to go this way or it doesn't happen. And so I remember people would just be like, don't be upset when you fail because, like, you're going to fail doing this. It just doesn't happen. And by the grace of God, something, I managed to, I managed to get my foot in the door. And then I had support around me that helped me throw that door open. And I landed, with a career doing entertainment coverage. And that's kind of what I've been doing ever since. And the industry is ever changing. And so now at this
But no,
point
it's
in my
not.
career,
No, it's
no,
not.
it just stays the same. It's so great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, at this point in my career, I'm in another moment where I'm like, okay, things are changing and I've got to figure out how do I change? How do I meet the industry where it's at if I want to keep doing this? Because now it's the world is creators and social media influencers and
Yeah.
studios are going that route. And I get it. I get it. That's where a lot of reach and focus and attention is. And it's both good and bad, I think. I think it's a really awesome thing because you don't have to get permission to get access. You can go create your own path. You can go build something that is unique and you can go create the job of your dreams. It's really hard
Yeah.
to do that and to go build audiences, but it's there. The opportunity is there. And now, like, you know, studios are opening the doors to that path. But man, when you've been in this industry for over a decade and you've been doing this and you're like, okay, back to the grind.
Yeah.
It's been a lot lately. It's been a lot lately.
Well, there again, a lot of stuff to unpack. First, all of those, all those women who were in the room or outside the room, you know, for the all those auditions, I guarantee you, 99% of them have not ended up on a big screen.
Oh,
and
no, for sure.
I cannot tell you how often I've gone to sit down I've gone to sit down and watch a movie with my kids in the theater and been like, oh, it's Danielle. And it's like, oh, yeah, I worked on this piece.
Yeah.
But, and you know, okay, so like I said, I went to SC and literally our first day at orientation, I'm not going to use his name, but there's a guy who used to work there who said, guess what? Hard part's over. You made it here because, I mean, USC, I mean, it's the gate. That is the gate.
Yeah.
Like I went to, I went to college and was at parties with Timmy from Jurassic Park, you know, like,
I mean, it is.
Everybody's there.
It's also not like it's still hard. Everything's still hard.
But here's the thing. Talk about how things changed. He said that January of 2001.
Mm-hmm.
And we were told every year people from SC win Oscars. Like every graduating class has an Oscar winner. Mm-hmm. And shortly after I got there, the digital revolution really took hold. And then it was, hey, these $150,000 turnkey Avid systems you can now do on a laptop. And everyone was like, whoa, what's going on? We got to figure out how to handle this.
Yeah.
And after college, people were kind of, puckering up and trying to figure out how are we going to navigate this. And then there was a big writer's strike. And most of my friends were out of work for months. At this point, like right before the writer's strike happened, I mean, right before, just a few weeks before, my wife and I moved to Texas. And I was luckily able to avoid that. But long story short, it's basically a way of saying most of the people I went to school with are not doing anything, even remotely associated with this business, because of how much it has changed and it continues to change. And you talked about how, you have so much experience and you're so good at running interviews with the biggest names on the planet. And
I'm so heartbroken, by the way, I didn't get to do interviews for disclosure because Spielberg is my number one. If I could choose anyone, he's my number one wish list. Please,
So I was actually in the first Spielberg class they had at USC. And what you would do is every day or every week, we had it once a week, they would show one of his movies. And then before that, we'd have double features. It would be like a formal determination of his. So like 1941 and Dumbo, And the day we watched Jaws, they said, by the way, we're going to have someone who was in Jaws coming in. And we're like,
no way.
And we're like, well, it has to be Dreyfuss. It has to be. Everyone else is dead. It has to be Dreyfuss.
Matt, I'm going to freak the fuck out if you tell me Spielberg walked in.
He did. And our professor said, Steven Spielberg. We thought he was coming in at the end of class because he has a chair at SC. Like, he's around. And they said, and everyone laughed. And he goes, no, for real, get up. Steven Spielberg is here. We looked back and he was walking in. And this is right after AI had come out. And we gave him this round of applause. He sat down. He goes, man, I really wish you guys had been there for opening weekend for AI. It would have gone over better. Which, by the way, our professor did say 20 years later, people would consider it a masterpiece. And now they do, because it is. But anyway, I got to actually ask him a couple of questions.
The movie with you guys?
It was before the movie. It was before. Okay. So we basically didn't have a lecture that day. We had like an hour and a half long interview session with him. And I got to talk to him, and I asked him 2 questions. I said, do you ever feel torn between making a movie artistic versus marketable? And do you ever watch Jaws when it's on TBS? And he answered the Jaws one first and goes, well, I tried to once, but it's in pan and scan, so we're over here, but no, we miss Richard Dreyfuss. We've got to And he went on for about 4 minutes about how much he hated pan and scan and got really heated.
Wait, really?
Yeah, and I'm standing there, and he turns around and goes, what was your second question? And I'm like, oh.
You're like, oh, God, sorry.
You ever feel torn between making a movie artistic versus marketable? And he goes, and then he said something that changed my life.
Okay.
He said, all the time, the secret is you have to find the art.
Oh.
And I have it written down. I still have the notebook where I find the art and I have it like underlined 6 times. And he said,
I love that.
Look at Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is a dumb monster movie. No matter what you do, that's what it is. But for me, making the dinosaurs as realistic animals as possible is the artistry. And that put his whole oeuvre into perspective, where it's like, how is it Jaws or Raiders? Raiders is pastiche of B serials from the 30s. Like it's ripping off stuff that wasn't good to begin with. How is it so good? And how is it considered like one of the top films of all time? And then you're like, oh, it's not art, but every other aspect of it is. There's so much artistry packed into something that it's like having a 5-star chef making you a cheeseburger,
Yeah.
It's perfect. And he kept talking to me for a bit, and like it literally changed my life. And that's kind of like my personal motto is find the art. Because
find the art. I really love that.
It's incredible.
And now you say that, like you could, I'm thinking back to his films and I'm like, yeah, I could see that because
every single one. Yeah.
I watched an interview with him recently where he was talking about like stories and how he writes out stories. And he said, my films are actually really simple. The stories of these films are very simple. And I thought back, I'm like, yeah, like you think about Jurassic Park, simple storyline. You think about Jaws, very simple storyline. Even Disclosure Day. At its core, at its essence, very simple storyline. Like 2 people, inexplicably drawn to each other, chosen for something bigger. And they are part of this big reveal, that we are not alone, right? That's pretty simple in its premise. But what he does with it, it feels like every moment is magic. Like every little thing. And when I watch a Spielberg film, I want to so when I watch a movie, there's this thing that my husband actually laughs at me. Like, he's like, I look over at you and your eyes are like scanning the screen. Like, like my eyes just do this and I just want to take everything in all at once. And so I try to just notice everything. And I never do the first pass because ultimately I end up getting sucked into the story and I forget that I'm even like a human being in that moment. And I just like exist kind of in this like weird ether where it's like just the movie. I don't know, like I'm not even in form or whatever. But like when you look at his stuff, it feels like every little bit is intentional. Like every little detail, everything. In fact, I just posted today on my social, in Disclosure Day, there's a scene.
Yeah, I specifically saw that and avoided it because I'm watching it in
it doesn't give
2.5 hours.
Away. It doesn't give any spoilers away.
Okay.
It does. It doesn't. But anyway, there's a scene and there's this one little thing in this scene. It's just a set piece. Like it's just in the set. And it's probably not even something that Spielberg himself like put in there. His set designer probably built it all out and then like, it was just there. But I noticed it because it's on the right side of the screen and it's in frame and it's in focus in a really big way. And like even this tiny little detail made me so emotional and like made me feel so much more. And for me, it was personal because it was something that I've never seen outside of like in my own office because I currently have it sitting on my shelf because it was my grandmother's. And my grandmother gave it to me because it's something she used to like. It's a little music box. She used to play it for me. And I'm sitting there in the movies and I'm like, for me in this moment, it's this tiny little piano, but for somebody else, it's something else in his movie, or it's another little thing, and it just feels like, I don't know how he does this, but it feels like his films are made for every like individual, but also for all of us collectively. Like, does that make sense?
100%, and it's why he is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Like anyone who talks bad about him, it's just like, okay, try to do what he does.
Yes.
Like you can make an artistic movie that like is inaccessible to people. And that's making a movie is difficult. Making a movie that makes sense to you, the filmmaker, is easier than making a movie that makes sense to everybody.
Yeah.
And works for everybody. And then when you take it and you're like, well, not only did it work for everybody, but it's like legitimately one of the best examples of this art form. There's literally no one who does it. And like those little moments, like you said, there's one shot in The Fabelmans that hit me. And every time I think about it, I can almost feel like someone's punching me in the stomach because it is such an emotional gut punch. And then you understand how he sees the world and his body of work. And it's when there's the fight at the house and he's watching it happen. And then he looks into the mirror and in his reflection, he's recording it on a Super 8 camera. He doesn't have it in the scene, but it's in the reflection. And that's when he's telling you he sees his life as a movie. That's how he has to process things.
Yeah.
And it's so incredibly sad. It's so sad, but also anyone who hasn't had like the happiest of childhoods and might have fallen in love with something like movies as a way of escaping it, understands. Like we get it. And no, he's the best, like without a doubt. So I wish you had a chance to interview him because
I know. I do
man,
too.
this is the one time he's actually done press for his movies. He never does press.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. But here's the thing though, and this kind of goes to what you were saying about how now it's influencers, right? Mm-hmm. Steven Spielberg has been making life-changing movies for over 50 years, right?
Yeah.
Do you think this guy who has fewer movies ahead of him than behind him, let's just be honest, wants to spend his time like with influencers who are like, give us your top 4, nothing against Letterboxd, I love those, but like doing like little games on the red carpet, or like, hey, do you remember your quote from this movie? Like, or do you think he wants to talk about something substantial?
I think it's a mix of both. So again, this is all just for me watching countless interviews and I saw him record a podcast live back in March, I think it was, March, which was so amazing. And then I saw him live at CinemaCon as well. He came out and did a sit down like Q&A and talked about Disclosure Day at CinemaCon when I was there. He seems like such a joyful human, and there's something about him that seems so childlike in the joy that he finds just talking about his movies, other creators' movies. Like when you hear him talk about other filmmakers, there's such a respect in the way he talks about them and a reverence for like the art in and of itself, which I think is really cool because like he's the best of the best. And yet he's so complimentary of other people, and he talks about learning from other people all the time. And he's like, I'm a sponge. I just want to learn. I just want to absorb. And I think that's such a unique thing to see in someone of his like someone who is as good as he is and as accomplished as he is and culturally influential as he is, that he just seems like, and even with all the Disclosure Day stuff I've watched, I haven't seen a single interview where he seemed like he was over it. He just looks like he's enjoying life and he's enjoying like what he's created and how people have reacted to it. He just seems like he is just enjoying the hell out of it. And I love that for him.
Now let's go into a wider look, okay? Do you think that he might be okay talking about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Do you think the average actor who's doing 3 hours of satellite interviews starting at 5 a.m. because they have to hit,
Hate it.
the
They
East
hate it.
Coast,
They hate it.
right?
They
Right.
hate it.
So,
Unless it's a film that is, they know they've got something. So, for example, like Ryan Gosling with Project Hail Mary.
yeah.
And even then, like, here's the thing with that too. So, people ask me this. This is the number one question I get asked. Who's your worst interview and who's your best interview? Who's your favorite person? Who's your least favorite person? And people always get irritated with me because I say I don't have either. I don't have a least favorite and I don't have a favorite simply because I I see both sides of the coin. I know that I'm there to do my job and I get frustrated when the other person across from me is not showing up in a way that allows me to do my job to the best of my ability. Like if they're shut down and you can tell because I've done a handful where I'm like, you want to be anywhere but here. And
Yeah.
I can tell. Like you were making that abundantly clear to me, you know? And that frustrates me because I'm like, hey, we all have a job to do. I'm trying to be here in service to your film and what, to get people to come see it or whatever. However, it's also wildly exhausting for them because they're
Yeah.
sitting for hours. Some junkets, just a singular junket, are 3 days long,
Yep.
2 days long. Like the US junket will be 2 days, 3 days long, especially for bigger titles. And then they've got press days on every stop they go on. So using Disclosure Day as an example, they were doing press for weeks, weeks. And that may not have been just a sit down junket. It could have been activations or everybody's seen like he went to a Spielberg pub night in the UK,
What's Jimmy
where
Fallon
all
going to have you eat today?
yeah, all of those people were specifically invited. That was
Yep.
not a random event. That was not a random pub where people just showed up for trivia.
No.
Like they were all placed there. However,
No.
like all of this stuff is built in, and so they're answering questions for weeks
Yeah.
on end. And inevitably, so many creators, journalists, outlets, or whatever, there are questions that you have to ask because you have to have a soundbite for your coverage. There has to be some context, right? And so they're getting asked those foundational questions a million times on the press tour. And they have to act just as excited, just as interested, just as invested.
Oh, I haven't heard that one
They get
before.
asked it,
Yeah.
all the way to the last time they get asked it. And like that's part of the job. However, I also can understand that that is wildly exhausting. It's wildly taxing. I can't imagine that's as fun as people think it might be, So I try not to judge based on that because like all of these people are they're also just humans and we all have good days and we all have bad days. And so if I go into an interview and the person's in a shitty mood and they're kind of being a jerk or kind of being an ass, I walk out of that room going, that's really unfortunate. I wonder what's going on in their life. Like, I wonder what happened to them today. Instead of going, well, this person's a dick. I hate them. I tend to look at it from that frame. And then on the flip side, like if I have an interview that I'm like, they were so lovely. They were so nice. I so appreciate how they showed up today. Like they were complimentary. Like I did an interview with Julia Roberts and she was wonderful. It was
That's
such
awesome.
an interview because everything was running behind that day. And I got on and she was like, thank you. She was like, you watched the movie, you get it. She was like, I love this. We're here for this. Like she just made me feel so like good. And she filled my cup for the day that I was like, dude, you've been doing this all day. You're exhausted. And then you still took the time to make me feel this good about the job that I was doing. Like, thank you,
I had to do I usually when I was at Eye Opener I would write the questions for the hosts, and
no one's ever done that for me. I've always had to do that myself.
I love doing it because I got
Just so everyone knows.
I got to produce the segments and then I got to sit and watch it happen.
Yeah.
So I got to like ask a couple of people, if they felt that they were getting typecast, and you could see them like just get like physically
Like curl in.
yeah, and then you hit them with another question, they're like, oh, You know, like
Yeah.
so like I like playing that game, but we had a snafu with one satellite interview, and I had to be on camera. And we had the first interview spot for the remake of Poltergeist. And I love Sam Rockwell.
Hmm.
And nothing was working right.
Oh, wait, you've told me about this one before.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And by
yeah.
the time we caught up with them 3.5 hours later,
Yeah.
his mood had changed
Yeah, I bet.
and he was no longer a fan of me, especially when I mentioned, hey, this is a remake. So
Yeah.
where do you see this heading? Do you see it like just staying with more of um, the influencers from TikTok? Do you think that's going to go away because people are going to want something more substantial? Like, how do you see this
Yeah.
playing out in like 5 years?
It's already swinging. And here's the deal. Like, it's going to be something else in 5 years. It's going to be something else in the next 5 years. Like, it's going to keep changing and evolving. I think junkets are going to change. I don't think you're going to see junkets around for forever. I think the way that we consume content is changing so rapidly. And these junkets are so difficult because it is. My computer just came unplugged. These junkets are so difficult because like sometimes you have 4 minutes. You have four
Maybe,
minutes
yeah.
to connect with somebody, to have a meaningful conversation with them, and then to walk away with enough content where you can tell a story that is in service to whatever film is coming out.
Oh, there have been times where like someone that I stuff that I've cut for you, where
Yeah.
you were only able to get through one
One
question
question. One
because
question.
they would go on, and you're kind of like, do I get a
Mhm.
second question? And
Nope. And they
nope.
cut me off. And in those moments, you're like, oh, I better have gotten something that I can use. And my stuff, like I work with pre-show partners, and so it runs on screen in movie theaters. And so, I'm sometimes not in that content. Sometimes it's just the talent. And so there's also this like, did the talent set it up in the right way to where I can use the soundbite and it can be like it explains itself and it's useful, you know what I mean? And so there's
Oh
just
yeah.
it's far more difficult than most people realize to do these really short form interviews. I'm saying that because we went through this phase when TikTok first started having a presence at junkets and red carpets. We went through this phase, and I think we're on the tail end of it. I don't think it's going to be allowed for much longer. We went through a phase where TikTok creators were being invited in to do bits, and they weren't necessarily respectful of
Oh no.
the film. It didn't have anything to do with the film. Like I remember there was a guy that uh, was covering a red carpet. He was a big TikToker, and his bit was, I'm going to ask questions, but I'm going to mumble the second half of the question. And I'm not
Yeah.
going to fully. You probably saw it because it went viral.
Oh yeah.
It got tons of views, had nothing to do with the movie, had nothing to do with like what they're trying to
You're
sell
just
a ticket
wasting
to.
everyone's time at that point.
Yeah, and it frustrated the talent because you could see that the talent was trying to be really respectful in return and be like, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Like they were trying to engage, and he would just be like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah," you know? And you could tell the talent was like, "I don't know what's happening right now," and they were uncomfortable, and like watching it wasn't funny to me and probably because like I know how much work goes into covering a
Yeah.
red carpet, covering a junket. Like that is not a joke. To me, that's not a joke.
No.
Like if you're given a spot, you better show up, you better put the work in, you better know everything you need to know about that movie, about the talent you're interviewing. And red carpets can be hard because sometimes people show up that you're not aware of. Like they'll just show up at the last minute and they're like, "Hey, do you want to interview this person?" Just found out like 2 seconds ago that they're here. So you just have to be prepared enough to be able to pivot and stuff on the fly. And so like we went through this phase where these TikTokers were doing bits, and it wasn't like it wasn't meaningful, I don't think. And then we're moving into more of a focus on creators that really have a niche for themselves and really have like their own unique brand and approach. And a creator that I actually love following, I'm gonna forget his handle off the top of my head because I do this. It's Stepping Through Film. That's his handle. I've chatted with him. He's lovely. Like his content is so good because he loves movies. And like you can tell that he is so prepared. He has poured his heart into it and he is so like when he shows up to do an interview, he's so respectful and he means everything he's saying. And you can tell like there's a significant amount of work that has gone into what he's doing. Hey, you're going to hear no argument for me on that. Like he has built this beautiful platform for himself. He has created this opportunity to go get these things. Like go on with your bad self. That's amazing. I love watching his content. So I think we're moving more towards that. And then now the shift that I've just recently started seeing is like you'll have these events that a bunch of influencers or creators, I hate using the word influencer because it's more creators in the film space now. You'll see these creators get invited to like the pub with Steven Spielberg, and it's about capturing the moment, capturing this, capturing this event that we're putting on or this pop-up that we're doing for you guys, or we're going to fly you out to the set because we want you to talk about this experience. There's a lot of that. And now we're starting to see podcasts and long form start to play a big role again. It's not traditional media though. It's not the broadcast stations. Like you have the big guys that are still there and still have a presence, but like a lot of local news stations aren't necessarily a big part of that anymore unless they're doing something meaningful. Like Jake out of Chicago, he does these brilliant shows that are not just segments. They're like true shows that he puts together. Like for Spielberg, he did one that's all about his history and career and leading up to Disclosure Day. And like, I think that's wonderful. I think people want that longer conversation. They want something more meaningful than just a soundbite.
I completely agree. And I think that Gen Z, as much crap as you can throw at them, they're kind of saving cinema right now. First of all, they're the ones going to see movies. They're supporting smaller movies that made by independent creators. And thanks to Letterboxd being such a big deal, it's making being a cinephile kind of a cool thing. And, I think if that's what it takes to get people back into this art form so we can stop losing, amazing theaters and, people will say, no, we want to see stuff in the theater and we want to own hard copies, and hey, like, because not Backrooms, Obsession was already supposed to be out on video on demand. And now they're like, whoa.
Yeah. Taylor Swift just showed up to the Toy Story 5 with a VHS tape from '96.
So there you go. Yeah.
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 And to make this kind of full circle, something we mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, Spielberg screened Jaws here in Dallas. That theater is a Kohl's. It's a Kohl's today. It used to be the theater that Spielberg, and he mentioned this when he was in Austin doing that podcast. He was like, I love Dallas. I used to bring all of my films to screen in Dallas. Like, I loved it. Him and George Lucas screened at that theater. One of the first Star Wars movie screened at that theater. Jaws.
It's a
screened
Kohl's.
at that theater. It's a Kohl's. It's a Kohl's. It is a Kohl's.
That's actually what really depressed me last time I went to LA was that all of my favorite theaters, every single one, was shut down. Every single one.
It's the theatrical business is changing. So there's changes happening in the entertainment industry and like making movies, bringing movies to audiences. The exhibition industry is changing too. I think there's something really cool that's happening. And if any filmmakers are watching this and they want to learn more about this, like, let me know, because I'm working with my husband right now. He owns a company called Film Frog. We're working on putting together some educational programming around this. But I think there's this beautiful shift happening. Speaking of independent filmmakers and independent studios that are really small, that like the gatekeepers are getting pushed to the side a little bit. Like you don't have to go through a major studio to do a theatrical release or to have your theater in or have your film in theaters now. There are a lot of avenues in which you can make that happen in a really meaningful way. And we've seen some of that with Markiplier and, a couple other filmmakers who have distributed the films themselves. there's an opportunity for that. And there's different kinds of theatrical distribution, you know, so everything doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to release and, you know, nationwide, or I'm going to do a full release that goes wide and I'm going to be on thousands of screens and da da da. You know what? I've seen theatrical releases where an independent film said, I'm going to pick 3 markets and I'm going to go one weekend, all out on that weekend, and they have made $1 million plus in that
Yeah.
weekend for a small independent film because they knew where their audience was. They knew how to reach their audience because they spent time building that audience, and then they partnered with those theaters in those specific markets for a very specific amount of time and were able to be really successful. And so I think you're going to see more of that happening too as this industry shifts. The gatekeeping it's shifting in all areas. It is shifting right now.
Okay, I could talk to you forever, and I want to talk
I
to
know.
you more. If I don't end this and get to
It's gonna be
my
forever long.
my celebration for my wedding anniversary, I will get murdered.
We
Tell
can
everyone where they can find you, because you've got a lot of cool stuff coming up,
Yeah,
and they
the
need to
best
know.
place right now is my Instagram at Danielle.Hawthorne. I think that's my Instagram handle. I have been really crappy at posting my own stuff. I've been a behind the scenes girl for a really long time. But I'm trying to make an effort. I'm getting in front of it. I'm
It's
trying
tough to
post
do.
more. It is so tough to do, especially whenever you're like, I do this for a lot of like outlets and stuff. I'm not necessarily the
At
anyway.
the end, well, once your regular work is done,
Yes.
doing it for yourself, like there's
Yes.
so little gas in that tank. I
So little
totally
gas
get
in
it.
the tank, but I'm
Totally get
trying.
it.
And if you would like to help me, because I've also been told I kind of have to try or I can't do this anymore. I need an audience. Please follow me at Danielle.Hawthorne because that would be really, really amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll be talking to you because I always do.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.